Anneal comes ready to go for annealing cases from 223 Remington through 30-06. For those of you who load the larger calibers, like 4570 or 338 Lapua for example, you'll need the large caliber conversion kit. The kit consists of two new indexing wheels and a nozzle extension. The indexing wheels have a wider opening for the larger diameter cases, and they're wider than the standard index wheels so that they can handle a longer length of large caliber cases. The nozzle extension is necessary so that the nozzle can be adjusted properly to hit the large caliber cases at the appropriate spot. Installation only takes a few minutes. The tools you'll need are a pair of 9/16 inch wrenches, a 1/2 inch wrench, a pair of 7/16 inch wrenches, or if you don't have two of these size wrenches, you can substitute a crescent wrench or something similar. Before we get started, let's take a safety precaution and make sure that our propane bottle is disconnected from the propane hose. In fact, I'm going to take my propane bottle and set it aside for now. Next, I want to turn on the Anneal and allow the opening on the lower index wheel to come around to the 12 o'clock position. You can use the speed control to slow it down a little to make it easier for that to happen. When it gets into the 12 o'clock position, I'm going to turn it off. Now, notice the position of the openings in both index wheels. When the bottom index wheel is at the 12 o'clock position, facing straight up, the opening in the upper index wheel is about the 4 o'clock position. That's important for the timing between when one case is taken away from the flame and the next case is placed into the flame. So let's remember those positions for when we put our new wheels on. Now, once I have that, I want to disconnect my power for safety purposes. Our first step will be to remove the 7/16 inch nuts on the bolts holding the indexing wheels on. Now, the top wheel is connected directly to the motor shaft in the back. So if you have any trouble getting that one off, you can reach around behind and hold the motor shaft while you remove the nut. The bottom wheel is on a bolt. It goes all the way through to the back of the motor mount. This is also a 7/16 inch nut, so you'll need to take a 7/16 inch wrench and hold that bolt while you take the other 7/16 inch wrench and take the nut off. Once the nuts have been removed, simply pull the indexing wheels off the bolts and replace them with the index wheels from the large caliber conversion kit. Remember, the wheel with the anti-slip surface on it goes on the bottom. And then replace the nuts. Before you tighten down the nuts, remember the positions that our indexing wheels were in when we tested it with the old index wheels. With the bottom wheel in the 12 o'clock position, the top wheel should be in about the 4 o'clock position. So we move the wheels into appropriate position, and then we tighten down the nuts. They don't need to be really tight, just snug enough so that the index wheels don't move on their own. With the new wheels installed, I've reconnected the power supply so we can test the operation with these 338 Lapua cases. I'll turn the Anneal on and make sure that the timing is correct and everything is working as it should. You can see that as one case is removed from the nozzle, the new case is immediately put in front of the nozzle. Looks like everything's working pretty good. Now, one thing you may run across, as the case comes down in the upper wheel, it may get stuck up against this flap right here. If that happens to you, take a pair of needle nose pliers and gently bend that flap out just a little bit, just enough so that the case will fit through the opening and drop onto the lower wheel properly. Next, we'll install the nozzle extension. First, I'll disconnect the nozzle from the propane hose by unscrewing the hose at the back of the nozzle. Then, on the back of the Anneal, there's a 1/2 inch bolt holding the nozzle connector on. I'll hold that and I'll simply unscrew it. The nozzle comes off. And the nozzle ring comes off. To install the nozzle extension, I'll take the nut off of the extension bolt, remove the spacer, and I'll place the nozzle extension bolt through the hole in the back of the Anneal. Then I'll put on the spacer and the nut. I'll just finger tighten those for now until we get our nozzle adjusted. Put the nozzle ring on. And insert the nozzle. And I'll just rotate the entire assembly until the extension bolt tightens up against the nozzle. Then I'll adjust the extension bolt so that the nozzle is pointing at the point on the case where the neck and the shoulder come together. And I want to be about 1 inch and 1.5 inches away from the case. Once I have that, I'll use a 9/16 inch wrench to hold the bolt in the back, and another 9/16 inch wrench to tighten the bolt in the front. Make sure that your propane adjustment knob is either in the front or on the top. You don't want it in the back. If we need to adjust this a little bit, I can simply rotate the nozzle ring, adjust the nozzle, and then rotate it back into position. Once it's adjusted properly, I'll reattach the propane hose to the back of the nozzle. Being careful not to strip the threads. With everything reconnected, we're ready to test our installation. First, let's try some 338 Lapua cases. I'll adjust the flame so so that the dark blue portion of the flame hits right about where the neck will be on the cases. And we'll turn it on, and we'll adjust the timer so that the cases end up under the flame for roughly 5 seconds. Everything seems to be working nicely. The timing between when one case comes out of the flame and the next case goes into the flame is looking good. The nozzle is adjusted properly. And everything looks good. We can also test some 4570 cases. I've adjusted the nozzle to account for the shorter case length of the 4570s. Light it up and try it out. It seems to be working well with the 4570s as well. Great. So there we have it. Our large caliber conversion kit has been installed. Seems to be working well. The timing is right. The nozzle can be adjusted properly for 4570, 338 Lapua, and other large caliber cases. Now, if you want to go back to 223 or 308 or some of the smaller cases, you'll need to just reverse the process. Put the old index wheels back on and remove the nozzle extension. If you leave the nozzle extension on for the shorter cases, when you adjust the nozzle to hit the case right at where the neck is, you'll end up pointing the nozzle back at the anneals. Now these nylon index wheels won't burn, but they will melt. You should never have the nozzle pointing back at the anneals. It should always be either parallel to or pointing slightly away from the anneals. So, that's all there is to installing the large caliber conversion kit.